Elon and his people are doing, and working with our people. It's been brought to light that the fraud, not just waste and abuse, the fraud has been incredible. You mentioned one, Madam Secretary.
Well, yes, sir. Well, let me just add to that, and thank you. We just had a wonderful cabinet meeting, all aligned on certainly the effort to realign the government. But even at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we've canceled a $300,000 contract educating on food justice for queer and transgender farmers in San Francisco. A similar contract we canceled in New York, again, educating transgender and queer farmers on food justice and food equality. I'm not even sure what that means, but apparently the last administration wanted to put our taxpayer dollars towards that. We canceled a $600,000 contract out of Louisiana that was studying the menstrual cycles of transgender men, a $600,000 contract. We canceled another contract out of a university in the middle of the country that focused on getting more diversity, equity, and inclusion into our pest management industry. Again, these are nonsensical. It makes zero sense to use taxpayer dollars to fund these. I know these are just a few examples of the hundreds and hundreds that we have found.
Well, a clear case of fraud was with the Small Business Administration, where they were handing out loans, $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11. I think the youngest, Kelly, was a 9-month-old who got a $100,000 loan. That's a very precocious baby we're talking about here.
Well, we're tackling the fraud, waste, and abuse in the agency. We've seen, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud go unprosecuted. So we're taking that on. We have a zero tolerance policy for fraud, and we continue to crack down on it and make sure people are held accountable.
And you have a lot of that. You found far too much of it. It's a pure fraud. We like to use the words waste and abuse because they sort of sound good, but many of these things are pure fraud. Now, there was a contract that you've heard about where Stacey Abrams got $2 billion just before we took over, and it was a rush to get her the money, and that was environmental, and nobody knows what she was doing. But $2 billion. If you got $2 million, that's a lot. If you got 200,000, that's a lot. But this was $2 billion was given. Lee, do you want to talk about that? And the other one that was even worse?
EPA has now canceled over $22 billion worth of contracts. $2 billion going to this NGO that Stacey Abrams was tied to. They received only $100 in 2023. And then the Biden administration gave them $2 billion. The director of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund saw his former employer get $5 billion. So $20 billion went to just 8 NGOs, and they're all pass-throughs. And then they were giving it to other entities. Many of them were pass-throughs. And what you have is all these extra middlemen, they're taking their cut. And the taxpayer ends up getting screwed. They're losing out on all this hard-earned money. They can't afford to have the federal government waste. The partnership with Doge and Elon Musk has been incredible at EPA. Their team is very talented. We wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And of course, this mandate from President Trump to make sure that we identify every last penny, whether we're saving $50,000, $5 million, or $22 billion. We will not rest until every last penny is saved. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to do this for the American public.
Great job you're doing. So we have a lot of that. We're getting down to a point we think probably over the next 2 or 3 months we'll be pretty much satisfied with the people that are working hard and want to be members of the administration and our country, really. And they're doing a lot of good people. We have a lot of great people. We want to keep the good ones, and we want to get rid of the ones that don't exist, and we want to get rid of the ones that do exist but don't work. And we have quite a few of them. Would anybody else like to say something before we take some questions from the press, please? Doug Collins.
Yes, Mr. President, I think one of the things that you've always told me is take care of our veterans, and that's what we're doing at the VA. And one of the things is you also have to know who your employees are. You have to know the very fact of who you are. We're 470,000 roughly when we started this, larger than the active duty Army, when you think about that in the perspective. But however, this is an interesting point. When I first got there and we started looking at this, how you take care of people, we didn't have an HR system that could actually give us a rundown on who actually was working where. that we've had to work with, working with our VA employees who are those liaisons, we've been able to put together an organizational chart, which we can start looking at that. But the interesting part about it is about taking care of veterans. And what you've told me to do is how do we get the people in the right places? And I think when we look at this, GAO has told us we were high risk for years. The previous administration put literally tens of billions of dollars and tens of thousands of employees over the last 4 years. And we saw our statistics basically stay the same or go down. Backlogs went up. You know, maybe the question is not money and employees anymore. Maybe it's the organization and how we effectively deliver for the American people. That's what we're going to do.
Well said.
And, you know, one thing I want to add to it, it is not necessarily a very popular thing to do. You know, you're talking about employment, you're talking about people and the lives of people. And yet, I think the American public understands we're trying to save our country and make our country great again. I mean, you could say it, but we're trying to save our country from this extraordinary thing that was happening. What they were doing to our country was just a horrible thing. And I have no idea how it plays out in the public. I guess you see poll numbers that are very good numbers, but I don't know what that means long term. But it's something that has to be done. If we don't do it, we're not going to have much of a country left, so we have to do it. So we're doing things that I think a lot of presidents wouldn't be inclined to do, but we're doing it to really, you know, I don't want to use cliche. I don't want to say we're doing it to make America great again, because I say that on the campaign trail, but there's really no other words that could express it better than that. We're doing it to help our country, and our country was riddled with fat, like no country probably anywhere in the world, and we're getting rid of the fat. And at the same time, we're going to be bringing in millions of very good, high-paying jobs, and we're going to be taking in a lot of money. Our country's going to be very strong. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. We were taken advantage of like nobody's ever seen. And you saw what happened today with Venezuela. We did something with Venezuela, which is long in the making, and it's very substantial. And we'll be announcing cars very shortly. And we already announced steel, as you know, and aluminum. We'll be announcing pharmaceuticals at some point in the not too distant, because we have to have pharmaceuticals. We don't make pharmaceuticals anymore in our country. And if we have problems like wars or anything else, we need steel, we need pharmaceuticals, we need aluminum, we need a lot of these things that we sort of don't make anymore, and yet we're equipped to do it all. So we'll be announcing some of these things in the very near future, not the long future, the very near future. And it'll bring in billions of dollars, billions and billions, and it'll bring in, maybe more importantly, jobs. It'll protect the jobs we have, and it's going to be really, really quite amazing. Chris, did you have something to say?
Yes, Mr. President. I want to say energy is the infrastructure that makes our country run and drives our national security. The Biden administration grew my department, the Department of Energy, by 20%, and expenditure much more than that, all in an effort to reduce the production of energy in the United States and to make energy more expensive. We are stewards of the American taxpayer dollars, right? That's the job of everyone around this table, led by you. We want to reverse that trajectory and care about every dollar an American taxpayer gives us, and are we using it for the benefit of Americans? Let me tell you one thing: huge growth in expenditures, huge growth in employee count. Puerto Rico, an American territory, had its electricity grid destroyed. They had billions of dollars in the Department of Energy to help Puerto Rico, yet they didn't spend that money, because that money would have meant more energy, more jobs, more prosperity in Puerto Rico. They wanted to have them as a poster child of wind and solar. This island should run on wind and solar. That just doesn't work. But they cared about politics more than the American people, and they didn't treat the dollars like they were their dollars. This table, the team you have assembled, we're treating the American dollars like they're our dollars.
Thank you. You're doing a great job on energy, by the way. We have things happening with energy that will knock your socks off. A really amazing job. Howard, do you want to say a couple of words?
Well, what is so exciting is April 2nd is just around the corner, and that's American Liberation Day. That's the day when the rest of the world starts to treat America with respect, and your leadership understanding how the rest of the world treats us. and what balance and what fair trade finally is going to be. It's going to take care of America. It's going to launch the External Revenue Service to start to build the power and prestige of America back. And I'm honored to be helping you on that course.
It's an interesting term, right? The External Revenue Service. We're going to take in a lot of money from the outside, and that's going to keep our taxes low. And I think getting a lot lower. It's going to be a lot of money, and that will, the external will take care of the internal to a large extent. So I think it's going to be a beautiful transformation. Linda, you might say a couple of words. You've done so amazing. It's a 50% cut. And more importantly, we want to bring education into the states. We're at the bottom of the pack, but we're the most expensive per pupil. And we want to bring education back to the states where they can teach the students lovingly with their parents and with the boards and everything else. And they'll be every bit as good as these other countries. These states, these individual states will do a phenomenal job. You want to say something?
Yes, sir. And if we think about education, if we don't address the issues in education now and start getting our scores up, what are we going to find our next generation after that? Where are our engineers, our doctors, our lawyers, our scientists, our AI and technical experts going to come from? We will go farther and farther down. And with everything else we're doing within our country, building manufacturing, bringing all of that back, if we don't educate in the best way we can, we will be lost. And those generations will be lost. It is, I think, the cornerstone of our culture and what we need to focus on. And so by having education at the best place where it can be, which is at the states, the local levels, with governors, with best practices and tools, which I hope the Department of Education can help supply for them, we'll do it.
And Linda, as you know, the SBA has taken over her student loans, which is a lot of loans. So a big job. And Kelly, we appreciate that. You're going to do fantastically well. And Bobby is going to be taking over their various medical aspects and health aspects of the educational process. So, and he's going to do a fantastic job of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just say that I'm very grateful to you and very grateful for the partnership with Doge, with Elon. We've identified extraordinary ways in my department and HHS. The expenditures, the budget of HHS during the Biden administration went up by 38%. The employees went up by 17%, and healthcare went down. We have 40 comms departments. We have 40 procurement departments. We have 40 IT departments, and we have 40 procurement, HR, none of them talking to each other. We are, with Elon's help, eliminating the redundancies. We are streamlining our department. We're going to go back to providing gold standard science. We're going to get the money to the scientists and to the patients rather than to the administrators and to the bureaucrats. And we're going to restore gold standard science, and we're going to make America healthy again.
Thank you very much. It's great. If you might, Madam Secretary, say a little bit about what's happening and how well we've done at the border.
Sir, this last week I was in Arizona, California, Alaska, and Florida, and CBP literally has almost 100% operational control of the border, which means that our country is secure and that we know who's coming into this country and that they love our country and they want to help keep it great into the future. We are, in the month of March, the last couple of weeks, increased our deportations by 50%. So we're now not even just getting the worst of the worst out. We're making sure that there's consequences for being here and committing crimes in our communities. And the numbers are continuing to escalate and to go up. Sir, this week I'm headed down to El Salvador. I'll be in the prison where we sent TDA members. I'll be meeting with the president and also Colombia and Mexico and talking about building these relationships so that we can continue to get people out of this country that don't belong here and take them home. And also you had talked to me about sending the message worldwide about the fact that people shouldn't be coming to this country and they shouldn't be coming here illegally. So we are in several other countries around the world with a message right now that's saying, if you are thinking about coming to America illegally and coming here, don't do it. You are not welcome. We have a legal process to becoming a United States citizen, and there are consequences if you come here illegally. And America has changed because we're putting Americans first. So We've also, the Coast Guard has done phenomenal work. I don't know if you all have reported on it, but we have broken historic records in the amount of drug interdictions that they have brought in. We've repositioned the fleet to go after the fentanyl crisis and to go after the southern border and securing it. And they've done amazing work as far as that. We were down in Florida. They brought in $500 million worth of cocaine that they had done in 14 interdictions and had brought them in, going right directly after the cartels and doing great work there. And we have a cutter that we have sped up the process, surf, the icebreaker, that'll be hitting the waters here this summer. And we've got 2 more that will be coming. But, you know, Russia is using their cutters and icebreakers up in the Arctic to do surveillance on us. And we're going to reposition our fleet to continue to partner. I want to thank the Secretary of Defense and the Navy for all of their help and partnership too. We do operations together because their obvious Navy warships are in certain regions, but our cutters are faster and can work together in a partnership that's securing America. So, and we're going to eliminate FEMA. So we've got a lot to do, but it's all good. And we're working hard, and we're going to make sure that we're continuing to do exactly what you promised.
That's great. Great job. Yesterday, there was a plaza that you know well. There'd be hundreds of thousands of people standing at that plaza, pouring into our country, totally unchecked. Many people from jails and prisons and mental institutions and gang members, and horrible. And they just pour into our country. Yesterday, I was speaking to somebody, I was checking on the border, and they said there was literally nobody in this massive plaza. You know, we're talking a plaza that would hold hundreds of thousands of people. There was literally nobody there. There was one person sweeping it, but there were no people. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing transformation very quickly. And we're getting the bad ones out first, and we're taking them out. And there's some really bad ones, murders of more than one people. At least 50% murdered more than one person. This is the people that we're letting in through their open border policy. It was terrible, but I want to just congratulate you and Tom Holman on the job you've done.
Boston this weekend, hundreds of dangerous criminals were removed, 4 killers taken out of the country just by what they did in Boston this last few days.
Yeah. And these are killers that there's no reasoning. It's not like, oh, let's talk them out of it. These are stone cold killers. They don't care. They don't even think about it. They kill somebody. They go to sleep. They wake up. They don't even remember they killed them. These are bad people that should have never been allowed into our country. Pam is doing such a fantastic job. I thought maybe you could say a few words.
Thank you, President. As far as we are hearing a lot about fraud, waste, and abuse, a lot of waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team. You have uncovered so much fraud in our government, and we will prosecute you. We have an internal task force now working with every agency sitting here at this table. And if you've committed fraud, we're coming after you. Thank you, Elon, for that. On the violent crime level, thanks to President Trump's directive, we are seeking the death penalty again. So all of these horrible, violent criminals that you're hearing about around the country, they will face the death penalty federally within our country. And the drug dealers need to get out of here because we are coming after you. We're going to have 94 great U.S. attorneys around this country, and everyone will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Thank you.
Thank you, President. It's at your directive.
I couldn't have said that better. That's very good. That's very good. She's doing a fantastic job. Thanks, ma'am. Do you have any questions, please?
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, what can states do now to implement your Department of Education executive order?
Well, I think what's going to happen is we are cleaning out a lot of things like the loans, student loans, which will be handled very professionally by people that do that. And then, as you know, RFK Jr. is going to do a fantastic job having to do with health and the other things, and frankly, better than the people at the Department of Education. You see the buildings all over D.C. And then the rest is the states are going to start coming in and taking all of the information on all of their students. And I think a lot of that information is going to be shipped to different states like Iowa, like Indiana, like so many. They're so anxious to get, they're calling us, and they're so anxious to get it. We'll be shipping the records of the children that they're taking care of, that they want to take care of, and the process will begin. And I think it won't be that long before the states will be really running the Department of Education. Our teachers are going to be taken very well care of. And I said, personally, I don't care union, non-union, it doesn't matter. Teachers are so important to this country and to me. And we're going to take great care of our teachers. And I know it's very important to Linda. So I think you're going to see a tremendous change very quickly having to do with education. And the process has already begun, very strongly begun. I think we've done, in whatever it is, 8 weeks. People are amazed at how much we've done in terms of the safety of the country. In fact, I would like to ask maybe Marco to say a few words on what's happening with respect to, in particular, Russia, Ukraine, where we have some pretty good news. I think we want to get it stopped. We're losing 2,500 young people, and these are Russian and Ukrainian people largely. They're not American people, but on a human basis, we want to get it stopped, and we want to stop spending billions and billions of dollars to a country that we think it's time, and we're doing pretty well. Marco, do you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. President, first of all, I think the American people should be proud that we have a president that's promoting peace and the end of conflict on this planet. This is a war that's gone on for 3 years, as you pointed out, that, as you rightly pointed out, would have never happened had you been president, but now it's here, and it needs to be brought to an end. There is no military solution to this war. It has to end through negotiation. And there's only one leader in the world that's capable of bringing two sides to a table, and that's our president, the president of the United States, President Trump. And that's what he's done. And so today, even as we speak, we have teams on the ground in Saudi Arabia meeting with the respective sides in the hopes of making progress towards this outcome that we all want to see. And I think that the country owes you great debt of gratitude, and the world, really, because, I mean, you're the only leader in the planet that can bring the two sides together to bring an end to this conflict. And that's what you've done. And you've done it despite, impediments from other countries and others who maybe have different opinions about how this should go. But ultimately, I think that the only chance we have for peace is through the president's leadership, and you've shown that, and we hope it'll bear fruit. And today will hopefully be one step more in that direction.
Thank you, Marco. And on the Middle East, another hot spot that we didn't have a problem with. There was no problem in the Middle East when we left, and now there's a lot of problems in the Middle East, but we're working on that. But I think we've seen significant progress, and I think we're going to start, we were talking with the vice president a little while ago, and you're going to see countries start to fill up the Abraham Accords. More and more countries want to join. That was a great success, tremendous success. And then Biden and his group did zero with it. That should have been filled up within a year of the election, would have been filled up. So countries are starting to want to get involved very much with the Abraham Accords again. So that'll be great. JD, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Yes, sir. Just on that topic, if you think about what happened with the Abraham Accords, one of the great diplomatic breakthroughs under the first Trump administration, really in the last 30 or 40 years of American history in the Middle East. And the Biden administration did absolutely nothing with it, built on it, not at all, added 0 additional countries. Purely out of political spite, the Biden administration, I think, hurt the United States and really hurt the project of world peace. That has changed. Luckily, about 2 months ago, we got a new president, and that president has given us the task of building out the Abraham Accords, adding new countries to it. And really what you see is a lot of these countries that have historical, ethnic, or religious hatreds want to build. They want to build new artificial intelligence. They want to build new real estate projects. They want their citizens to become rich and prosperous and peaceful, and they're setting to the side some of those old hatreds under the leadership of President Trump. So it's early, but we made a lot of progress, and we'll keep on making progress, sir.
Thank you, JD. One of the things that's very important, I think, to mention, I saw a show yesterday, and they had a Democrat congressman on. It was on Fox. And he said, well, President Trump said prices would be coming down, and instead he's focused on other things. Well, we are focused on a lot of other things, like peace, like all of these companies that are moving in and jobs. But what he didn't say is that prices have come down very substantially. And if you look at when I came in after 1 week, they were screaming at me about eggs. Eggs had nothing to do with me, but they were through the roof and you couldn't get them. And now they're down about 35, 40%, maybe even more than that. I'm going to let Brooke, if you would just discuss that. And groceries generally, prices are coming down and energy prices are coming down. And I hope the Fed lowers interest rates, and then you're going to see interest rates coming down. And I'll have you speak about that in a second, Scott. Brooke, go ahead.
Well, sir, thank you. I think the first thing that's really remarkable to note is that the prices of eggs under the 4 years of Joe Biden increased 237%. 237% in those 4 years. And yet it wasn't covered in the press at all. No one talked about the price of eggs in the summer of last year, for example, from the media. So, of course, the president wins and he is inaugurated. And the next day, everyone is yelping about why the price of eggs are so high. So it was certainly one of many, many issues we took on under the 4 years of Joe Biden. We had the cost of input go up 30% for all of our agriculture products. At the same time, the trade deficit increased $49 billion. So it was zero under the first Trump administration. And then under Joe Biden, we sold $49 billion less of our ag products around the world. Then you combine that with the avian bird flu. And I know I've talked to a lot of you in the press on this over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But listen, here's the deal. The president, under his vision and support, we released about a month ago a very significant plan on how to bring the price of eggs down. It included 5 prongs. I won't go into it now because I don't want to bore everyone. But since that day, since we released that plan regarding biosecurity, repopulation, importing eggs, research, and then deregulating, taking those onerous rules off of our farmers, our egg-laying farmers. Since that time, the price of eggs, the wholesale price of eggs, has come down 53%. So we're going to keep working on it. Listen, it's not something you solve overnight. Avian bird flu and some of the other animal diseases, we're working across the government, several partners out in the cabinet on that, especially my friend Secretary Kennedy over at HHS. But we have a long-term solution, but at least for now, in the short term, thanks to President Trump and so many that have worked so hard, the price of eggs are coming down, as well as the price of groceries. So thank you, sir, for the opportunity to lead on that.
And the number is 53%, and they're readily available. So I think it's a fantastic job. And overall groceries are down too.
That's right. They're coming down.
So the consumer's finally seeing some good news instead of year after year of prices going up because of grossly incompetent leadership. Scott, do you want to talk about interest rates, where you see it all going?
Yes, sir. So we are, under your direction, we're reprivatizing the economy. We're bringing down government spending. We're bringing down excess employment in the government sector. On the other side, we're going to re-leverage the banking system. We're going to have all the new manufacturing jobs, so everyone who's laid off from the government will have an opportunity to go into the private sector, and that is going to lead to disinflation. Inflation is under control. We're going to get the affordability crisis fixed. So lower energy, deregulation, more private sector jobs that will naturally get interest rates down. Interest rates down. Mortgage rates are down almost every week since January 20th. The energy costs are down about 15%. Crude oil's down about 15%. And as we keep that going, interest rates are going to keep declining. It'll be good for mortgages. It'll be good for credit card debt. It'll be great for auto loans.
That's great. And you're doing a really, really good job. I'd like to see the Fed lower interest rates. That's just my opinion, because things are coming down. We have inflation under control. Tremendous amounts of money will be soon coming in from tariffs, which is about time that we were able to partake. We've been ripped off by every country on that basis, and it's about time. But that will be, I think, treated very fairly. Will be very fair. But the money that we're talking about is rather astronomical, and it should be, because we put years and years. I was able in the first term. We had a great first term with the highest stock price increase ever. All the different things that we had, but one of the things, we took in a lot of money in tariffs, and I had just started that process, and we had to slow it down because of the COVID. We didn't go forward. We did a very good job with COVID, but that was something that happened to the whole world. It was a shame. What a shame! All those people dead, and all of the problems that it caused for countries far worse. I mean, some countries still haven't recovered economically. They haven't recovered, but. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs just starting the process. But this is a program that's going to be, I think, unbelievable for our country. And I think it's treating other countries very fairly, very, very fairly. I'd like to ask, if I might, Sean Duffy to say a few words about the air traffic control situation. You know, there were some mishaps, one in particular, the helicopter crashing into the plane. We have a system that's 40 years old. They spent tens of billions of dollars trying to patch it up and, you know, make it work, but it doesn't work. And my pilot says they use different systems. They don't want to use our system. It's so obsolete. And it's an obsolete, horrible thing that happened with respect to it. And we were going to, I said, day one, if this happens, if we are successful, we're going to have to get a brand new, modern, top of the line air traffic system. And I think I can say that I've been working a little bit with Sean on it, but Sean's been working hard on it. And with his new person at FDA, who's going to be terrific, by the way. And maybe you want to talk to them about that, because we need safety in the air, total safety in the air. And this will give that to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. We had a conversation on Friday. Again, our air traffic control system, as we talked about maybe privately or I don't know publicly with all of you, but we have decades of ideas and billions of dollars, and no progress is ever made on any of these initiatives. Air traffic control is the same thing. And so we're having a conversation about building a state-of-the-art, brand new, best technology, envy of the world air traffic control system. And what's interesting from the DOGE team is they'll look and say, well, what is the problem? Why hasn't this been built? This is about safety. This is about people's lives. All of you fly, your family flies. Why hasn't it been done? And the problem is in government, it takes way too long. So technology changes and money changes and administrations change. We have to do this fast, which is why we need the partnership from the Congress to give us the money up front. The best ideas and the best technology available in the world, we're going to build in the system. I think, Mr. President, we can do it in 3 years. I think Trump Tower was built in 3 or 3.5 years. I think we could match the Trump Tower timeframe.
2 years.
Okay. 2 years.
Maybe not that good, but about 3 years. And again, we have to choreograph because again, our towers are operational, keeping planes in the air. So we got to choreograph this, but we can do it in short order. If I can just make one other point, Mr. President, we're $36 trillion in debt. You've never had a DOGE. We've never come in and looked at our government the way, Mr. President, you've looked at this government and said, there's too many people, there's contracts, fraud, waste, and abuse. And so we've had a few bumps in the road as we've gone through this process. But if you look around this room, everybody has seen how the process has evolved, and everyone appreciates some of the insight and technical support that we've gotten to make this government more efficient, to make it more responsive to the American people. And so, again, when you have a new system like this, you'll get some bumps, but things are rolling out. The last 3 weeks have been much, much better as our teams have integrated and we're working to deliver for the American people. And I would say some of the press had made comments last time about what happened in the last meeting. We had a great conversation in the last meeting. Elon and I had a great call after the meeting, and so sometimes the reporting can be a little bit off. I love the analysis that you guys do when you're not in the room. But I would just note that we're working well together, Mr. President, and the whole team here is working well together.
Well, actually, we decided to see you after the cabinet meeting instead of before. And I think that's nice. But if you think about it, I guess never in history has anybody invited you to a cabinet meeting. We're very open and transparent. And we had a very good meeting today. So, I mean, you're standing here, you're seeing what the result of the meeting is. I think we're doing an amazing job for essentially 8 weeks on the job. I think there's never been anything like it. Did you have a question, please?
Two, actually, if you don't mind. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. One, actually, to follow up on the Attorney General's comments, and then one for you. You said that you're now preparing to prosecute examples of fraud across federal agencies that have been referred to you. Is that what you said?
We are working with a team. We have a team of attorneys in place working with Elon's incredible team, helping us, taking referrals from the cabinet members. You know, these are your tax dollars. And a lot of it is just abuse. A lot of it's waste. But if it's fraud, we are investigating it, and we are looking at multiple cases of fraud throughout the federal government.
One for you, Mr. President. Greenland is confused about the Second Lady and the National Security Advisor visiting this week. concerned that this is further provocation, whatever it is you ultimately want for Greenland. Could you further explain why they're going? What is the ultimate end goal when it comes to?
Yeah, well, not provocation. This is friendliness, not provocation. We're dealing with a lot of people from Greenland that would like to see something happen with respect to their being properly protected and properly taken care of. They're calling us, we're not calling them. And we were invited over there, and I thought it would be I have great respect for the wife of our great vice president. I think she's a brilliant woman. She's a very nice woman, and she loves the concept of Greenland. And so she's going there, and I think Marco's going there, and some others are going there. But we've been invited, and they really like the idea because they have been somewhat abandoned, as you know. They haven't been taken good care of. And I think Greenland's going to be something that maybe is in our future. I think it's important. It's important from the standpoint of international security. And if you look at the ships outside of Greenland, you have Russia, you have China, you have lots of different people and lots of different places. And it cannot go on the way it is. It's not going to go on the way it is. I'll make a statement. It's not going to happen. So they're going there, and that's purely friendship.
Who's doing the inviting?
A lot of people, yeah. People from Greenland are asking us to go there. We have many, many requests from many, many people, some officials too.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I asked
please.
you about economic forecast. I saw one economic forecast coming out from the OECD this past week. They are forecasting stagflation for the United States, a downtick in terms of GDP growth. Do you agree with that forecast? What do you see over the course of 2025?
Well, we inherited a very, very bad and perilous situation from a group of people. Again, we just got here from a group, and this takes a long time to develop, from a group of people that truly didn't know what they were doing. And you see that with not only costs, you see that with all of these fake contracts that have been given out. So we inherited a bad situation, but I think we're going to have an economy that booms. I think when it all kicks in, it's not going to take very long because some of these people that announce that they're going to spend billions of dollars. I mean, literally, Apple is spending $500 billion. They've never made anything close to that to do that. They're building plants here instead of China, instead of other places. When it all happens, and it's going to happen very soon, these are people that are already, in many cases, they're already starting. They just announced. In some cases, they announced, but they actually started before the announcement, as you know, because some are already building. This is going to kick in. I think it's going to be amazing. So they're looking at, based on numbers that I was looking at 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I was very concerned about the economy. We're going to have something that's like nobody's ever seen before. We have numbers, and we have job generation that I don't think we've ever seen before. See how it works out. But I think the economy is going to go through the roof.
Okay. Mr. President,
Yeah,
also,
please.
About Ukraine, in an interview with Time Magazine published this morning, President Zelensky said he believes that some members of your team have been influenced by Russian information. Those were his words. What do you have to say to that?
Well, probably they have been influenced to get this thing settled because Ukraine wants to see it settled. I think they have to have it settled, and Russia wants to see it settled. And I think if I weren't president, this would never happen. Marco's doing a great job, and Steve Witkoff has been incredible. Michael Waltz. We have a great group of people working on it, and it takes a good part of their day settling something that really, it affects us monetarily because we've given so much money, and we're getting that done. In fact, Scott has told me that the agreement on rare earths is just about completed. They'll sign it shortly. So it's, as you know, Europe is in for a very small fraction of what we're in for. It affects them much more than it affects us. Again, they are in as a loan, which nobody knew until I came along. Europe is giving the money to Ukraine as a loan. We were just pouring money into Ukraine. It was a very unfair situation. So we made a deal on rare earths. But most importantly, we want to stop the killing that's going on. 2,500 on average, mostly soldiers, a week are being killed. And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian. And if we can stop it, that's a very important thing to me on a human basis. Okay, anybody else?
Are you signing the rare earths deal today? Is that what you mean?
No, we'll be signing it soon.
So
It'll be signed very soon.
Can I ask another question on Ukraine?
Yeah.
You recently mentioned the fate of all the Ukrainian children abducted and transported to Russia. So are you demanding that Russia return these kids to their families in Ukraine?
Well, it's one of the things that we're talking about. I know that no decision's been made. We're talking about territory right now. We're talking about lines of demarcation. We're talking about power plant ownership. Some people are saying the United States should own the power plant and then work it that way because we have the expertise to fix it up, et cetera, et cetera. It's okay. That would something like that would be fine with me. But they are talking about ownership of the big nuclear power plant in particular. But all of these things will come up, and they have come up, and that has been discussed. Yes. Okay. I want to thank everybody very much. This was a great meeting. These are phenomenal people. We're lucky to have them. I have to tell you, I want to thank you all. And Elon, I want to thank you. I know you've been through a lot with this horrible situation that happens.
That's right. Saving America.
It's very unfair. What he is a patriot. Here's a man that I can tell you, he's a friend of mine. He's become a friend of mine. He supported me in the election. That's when I got to know him. Really, I knew him a little bit from the first term, but not much. But he's a patriot more than anything else. He's never, think of it, he has never asked me for a thing. He could have. I always say, I wonder if he's ever going to ask me for something. And that's always subject to change. And if it does change, I'll let you know about it. But Elon has never asked me for a thing. I mean, I got rid of the electric car mandate. I have no idea how that affects him, but possibly not good. I don't know. But he's never asked me for a thing. And I think that's an amazing tribute. I did get activated last week when I saw what they were doing. I said, he makes an incredible product, and we're going to go out and tell people you can't do that stuff and support him. They got to support him, because if he wasn't doing this, he wouldn't have any of these difficulties. And I think it's getting less and less. Pam has done a great job with regard to all of the, I mean, I know the kind of investigations that are going on. If she finds them, which she will, she already found 4 of them. But I think they're going to suffer very grave consequences, because they're really terrorists when you think about it. They're terrorists at a high level. And I think the people that are financing them, they could very well be people I know, people that you write about. But those people are in big trouble. So they better cut it out. But Elon's a patriot. We want to thank you very much for the job you're doing. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
En directo, 7:04, hora central europea, culmina esa rueda de prensa, esa reunión más bien, protagonizada por el presidente de Estados Unidos, por Donald Trump, junto a su gabinete. Como siempre, muchos titulares nos ha ofrecido el presidente de Estados Unidos, que ha hecho una retrospectiva, bueno, pues por todos los asuntos que son de interés actualmente: tema arancelario, tema de Groenlandia, tema de negociaciones y de conversaciones de paz que se están celebrando entre Estados Unidos y Ucrania, y también con Rusia. Y tenemos ahora compareciendo en directo al responsable de Dodge, a Elon Musk. Parece que se va, ha hablado unos instantes, así que no hemos podido coger más, pero esa señal nos ha llegado en directo justo después de esa rueda de prensa de Trump. Vamos a resumir en los próximos minutos, en el cierre de Wall Street, los principales titulares que ha dejado el presidente de Estados Unidos. Pequeña pausa, quédense con nosotros y continuamos en el cierre de Wall Street de Negocios Televisión.
El futuro te está llamando. En menos de 15 minutos puedes estar operando con futuros sobre Nasdaq, S&P, oro y mucho más con AvaTrade, un broker que habla tu idioma. Descubre las ventajas de AvaTrade y disfruta de hasta 100 operaciones sin comisiones. Registro rápido y sencillo, transacciones instantáneas, operaciones seguras. El futuro comienza ahora. AvaTrade.
¿Qué cuento quieres hoy? ¿Te cuento uno de los míos? ¿El del farmacéutico? ¿O el de María, la abogada?
El de Ana, la arquitecta.
Vale. Eres una niña que soñaba con crear los edificios más impresionantes de la Tierra. Se pasaba el día dibujándolos. Sabía que algún día acabarían llegando a lo más alto de cada ciudad. y que cualquier persona...
Cada profesional tiene detrás una historia increíble. Creer en ella es lo que de verdad cuenta. Arquia Banca, el banco de los profesionales.
Vuélvete máster en transformar tu carrera. Obtén tu Master in Management con doble titulación de Tulane University, Estados Unidos, y de UFM, en Madrid.
En el corazón de Madrid, descubre los Montes de Galicia, donde la tradición gallega se encuentra con la innovación culinaria. Saborea nuestros mariscos frescos, carnes jugosas y postres caseros. Todo preparado con ingredientes de la más alta calidad. Disfruta de una experiencia gastronómica única en un ambiente acogedor y elegante. Los Montes de Galicia, donde cada comida es una celebración. ¡Te esperamos!
Muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos al cierre de Wall Street en Negocios Televisión. Jornada la de hoy de cierta fiesta en la renta variable europea. Hay cierta esperanza, cierto anhelo porque el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, vaya a aplicar a partir del 2 de abril unos aranceles más concretos, más específicos y más detallados que no barran con el comercio internacional. Parece que esas expectativas están calando entre los inversores y esos índices de renta variable celebran la situación en una jornada en la que hemos tenido PMIs, el de servicios, muy bueno, por encima de 53, el manufacturero pincha a la baja, por debajo de 50. Nos vamos a preguntar hoy en el programa si eso puede ser una señal de recesión en la economía norteamericana. Antes de adentrarnos en lo que está pasando en el mercado en ese tiempo real, vamos a resumir, a detallar un poquito más de forma exhaustiva pues los principales mensajes y titulares que ha lanzado el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, en esa reunión con su gabinete a la que ha vuelto a asistir el CEO de Tesla, el responsable de Dodge, Elon Musk. Empezamos precisamente con lo que tiene que ver con el mercado, porque el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, ha vuelto a lanzar un mensaje de presión al presidente de la Reserva Federal, Jerome Powell, al insistir en que en Estados Unidos, no lo he dicho una vez, ni dos, ni tres, pero es que lo he dicho varias veces en la reunión con el gabinete. En Estados Unidos, los tipos de interés tienen que bajar.
But they were through the roof and you couldn't get them. And now they're down about 35, 40%, maybe even more than that. I'm going to let Brooke, if you would just discuss that. And groceries generally, prices are coming down and energy prices are coming down. And I hope the Fed lowers interest rates, and then you're going to see interest rates coming down, and I'll have you speak about that in a second, Scott.
Precisamente hablando de bajadas de tipos de interés, ya saben que la semana pasada, tras esa reunión del Comité de Mercado Abierto de la Reserva Federal, se estableció como expectativa por parte de la Fed para el año 2025 que hubiese 50 puntos básicos de recorte de tipos de interés. Esto, traducido a un ritmo moderado en los recortes, pues indicaría 2 recortes de tipos en el año 2025. Pues bien, Rafael Bostic, de la Reserva Federal de Atlanta, acaba de desdecir a Jerome Powell porque dice que él no ve 2 recortes de tipos en el año 2025, sino que tal y como está el panorama, el presidente de la Fed de Atlanta, atención, habla de un solo recorte de tipos de interés en el año 2025. Más cosas que ha dicho el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, se ha referido precisamente a esa evolución de las conversaciones de paz que se están produciendo en Riad y se ha vuelto a referir al acuerdo de tierras raras que está a punto de firmarse podría firmarse en el propio Riad. Donald Trump dice que espera firmar pronto ese acuerdo sobre minerales ucranianos. El presidente de Estados Unidos ha dicho que espera que se rubrique pronto ese acuerdo de reparto de ingresos entre Estados Unidos y Ucrania sobre minerales raros ucranianos. Trump también ha dicho a los periodistas mientras se reunían con su gabinete que Estados Unidos está hablando con Ucrania sobre la posibilidad de que empresas estadounidenses sean propietarias de centrales eléctricas ucranianas. Vamos a ver esas palabras del presidente Trump.
Marco is doing a great job, and Steve Witkoff has been incredible. Michael Waltz. We have a great group of people working on it, and it takes a good part of their day settling something that really, it affects us monetarily because we've given so much money, and we're getting that done. In fact, Scott has told me that the agreement on rare earths is just about completed. They'll sign it shortly. So it's, as you know, Europe is in for a very small fraction of what we're in for. It affects them much more than it affects us. Again, they are in as a loan, which nobody knew until I came along. Europe is giving the money to Ukraine as a loan. We were just pouring money into Ukraine. It was a very unfair situation. So we made a deal on rare earths. But most importantly, we want to stop the killing.
Hemos hablado de Reserva Federal, hemos hablado de ese acuerdo de tierras raras y también se ha hablado en esa reunión del gabinete de Donald Trump sobre un asunto pues, que preocupa a los norteamericanos en una jornada en la que hemos conocido que las manufacturas están subiendo de precio, los materiales están subiendo de precio. Pues bien, el presidente de Estados Unidos, a través de su secretario de Energía, de Chris Wright, ha asegurado que Estados Unidos va a conseguir bajar unos precios de la energía que asegura la administración Trump. El anterior presidente de Estados Unidos, Joe Biden, provocó que subieran exponencialmente. Llamada a la calma por parte del secretario de Energía, Chris Wright, justo en el mismo día en el que se han anunciado aranceles del 25% al petróleo venezolano, una medida que podría impactar sobre el propio precio de la energía en Estados Unidos.
President, I want to say energy is the infrastructure that makes our country run and drives our national security. The Biden administration grew my department, the Department of Energy, by 20% and expenditure much more than that, all in an effort to reduce the production of energy in the United States and to make energy more expensive. We are stewards of the American taxpayer dollars, right? That's the job of everyone around this table, led by you. We want to reverse that trajectory and care about every dollar an American taxpayer gives us, and are we using it for the benefit of Americans? Let me tell you one thing, huge growth in expenditures, huge growth in employee count. Puerto Rico, an American territory, had its electricity grid destroyed. They had billions of dollars in the Department of Energy to help Puerto Rico, yet they didn't spend that money because that money would have meant more energy, more jobs, more prosperity in Puerto Rico. They wanted to have them as a poster child of wind and solar. This island should run on wind and solar. That just doesn't work. But they cared about politics more than the American people, and they didn't treat the dollars like they were their dollars. This table, the team you have assembled, we're treating the American dollars like they're our dollars.
También se ha pronunciado durante esta reunión del gabinete de Donald Trump uno de sus hombres fuertes, el secretario de Estado de Estados Unidos. Ya saben que es uno de los que está encabezando esas conversaciones para alcanzar una paz entre Rusia y Ucrania. Ha hablado precisamente sobre las conversaciones que hoy se han retomado, por un lado entre Estados Unidos y Rusia, por otro lado entre Estados Unidos y Ucrania. Ha dicho Marco Rubio que Estados Unidos tiene equipos en el terreno en Arabia Saudí con la esperanza de llegar a un acuerdo. La solución pasa por la negociación. No hay opción de una solución militar.
Yeah, Mr. President, first of all, I think the American people should be proud that we have a president that's promoting peace and the end of conflict on this planet. This is a war that's gone on for 3 years, as you pointed out, that, as you rightly pointed out, would have never happened had you been president, but now it's here, and it needs to be brought to an end. There is no military solution to this war. It has to end through negotiation. And there's only one leader in the world that's capable of bringing two sides to a table, and that's our president, the president of the United States, President Trump. And that's what he's done. And so today, even as we speak, we have teams on the ground in Saudi Arabia meeting with the respective sides in the hopes of making progress towards this outcome that we all want to see. And I think that the country owes you great debt of gratitude, and the world really, because I mean, you're the only leader in the planet that can bring the two sides together to bring an end to this conflict. And that's what you've done. And you've done it despite, impediments from other countries and others who maybe have different opinions about how this should go. But Ultimately, I think that the only chance we have for peace is through the president's leadership, and you've shown that, and we hope it'll bear fruit. And today will hopefully be one step more in that direction.
Y con este panorama que nos encontramos en esta jornada de lunes en la que abrimos la semana, queremos saber cuál está siendo la reacción del mercado en este contexto. Pues ya están viendo esa reacción del mercado. ¿Cuál es el color predominante en la jornada de hoy? Después de tantísimas turbulencias en las últimas semanas, el verde es el color que está liderando el comportamiento de Wall Street en la jornada de hoy. Y ahí están viendo cómo sobre todo son las grandes tecnológicas. El índice Nasdaq es el que está impulsando en la sesión de hoy a Wall Street, y lo más llamativo en todos esos recuadros que ven ustedes ahí, pues es una compañía, la tenemos aquí. Tesla, revalorización superior al 10% para la compañía en la sesión de hoy, después de hacer avances para aliarse con China en la puesta en marcha de un proyecto de conducción autónoma. Le ha sentado muy bien hoy esa noticia a Tesla después de la sangría a la que se ha enfrentado en el mercado en las últimas semanas y meses desde la llegada de Donald Trump a la Casa Blanca. También subidas intensas superiores al 3,5% para Nvidia, avances del 3,15% para Meta, subidas del 3% para Amazon y subidas algo menos intensas pero también importantes para Google, 1,8%. Tenemos a Eli Lilly con avances del 2,5%, pero vamos, en cualquier caso es evidente que el color que predomina hoy es el verde y que el índice que más está revalorizando, lo pueden ver también en sus pantallas, es el índice tecnológico Nasdaq. Avances para Nasdaq del 1,8%, 20.124 puntos. Subidas también nada desdeñables para S&P 500 que avanza un 1,37 en los 5.747 puntos y un poquito más rezagado, pero también en positivo, con avances del entorno del 1% para Dow Jones de Industriales, que suma un 0,97 y se coloca por encima de los 42.400 puntos, 42.408. El índice Russell 2000 avanzando también con solidez, más de un 1,2% en los 2.096 puntos y a la baja, como también es habitual en una jornada como la de hoy, el índice de volatilidad VIX, que ya se coloca por debajo de 20 en 18,37. Vamos a ver la cotización en otros mercados que también se están viendo impactados, bueno, pues por todos esos mensajes que lanza el presidente de Estados Unidos. Cotización del crudo hoy, pues podríamos haber visto una importante subida en la cotización del crudo después de las palabras de Donald Trump sobre los aranceles al crudo venezolano. Hay subidas, pero no son demasiado intensas. Tenemos al barril Brent de referencia en Europa cotizando, como lo ven ahí, con avances del 0,9, al borde de los 73 dólares, el West Texas de referencia en Estados Unidos con avances del 0,9 en los 69.000, en los 69 dólares, perdón, por debajo de los 70. Miramos también a la cotización del oro. Hoy el oro está lateral, pero como ven ahí, pues al borde de los 3.000 dólares, en los 3.003, con cierta tendencia negativa. Vamos a ver también el comportamiento del mercado de renta fija, porque este ánimo de los inversores hacia la renta variable, pues a veces suele suceder así, ha hecho que la rentabilidad de los bonos en Estados Unidos caiga con cierto estrépito, con cierta contundencia. Vamos a ver en tiempo real ese mercado de renta fija para ver ese comportamiento, como decimos, a la baja en la rentabilidad de los bonos. Bono americano a 10 años impulsándose con solidez por encima del 4%, el 10 años también con subidas del 2%. Aumentan las rentabilidades en los bonos en un contexto como el actual. Y Bitcoin, por cierto, también lo tenemos impulsándose con contundencia, acercándose a los 90.000 dólares. De nuevo, lo tenemos en 88.424 dólares. Y vamos a contarles una noticia de última hora del ámbito empresarial que tiene que ver con una compañía sector automoción. Estamos muy pendientes de él. Les contamos que Hyundai anunciará inversión por valor de 20.000 millones de dólares en Estados Unidos. Ha dicho el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, que van a ser muchas las empresas, tanto estadounidenses como extranjeras, las que van a volver a Estados Unidos, van a invertir y van a generar puestos de trabajo. Pues una de ellas es Hyundai, con sede en Corea del Sur, anuncia una inversión de 20.000 millones de dólares en deslocalización de sus productos en Estados Unidos, que incluye una planta de acero de 5.000 millones de dólares, según ha confirmado la Casa Blanca. Se espera que la inversión sea anunciada esta tarde por el presidente Donald Trump y el presidente de Hyundai, Chang, con el gobernador de Luisiana, con Landry, que por cierto estamos pendientes de que dé comienzo esa comparecencia. Pues esa es la noticia de última hora. Hyundai anunciará una inversión por valor superior a los 20.000 millones de dólares. Ahí está precisamente esa señal que nos llega desde la Casa Blanca, porque estamos pendientes de la comparecencia del presidente de Estados Unidos, que va a hacer unas declaraciones en los próximos minutos, como les contamos, con el presidente de Hyundai, con Jason Chan, y con el gobernador de Luisiana, Landry, para anunciar esa inversión multimillonaria por parte de esta compañía de Corea del Sur del sector de la automoción. Vamos en directo con nuestro invitado de la jornada, Javier Domínguez Aurigabonos. Muy buenas tardes.
Hola Alba, buenas tardes.
Javier, estamos muy pendientes de toda la información que nos llega desde Estados Unidos. Tenemos al presidente norteamericano Donald Trump, que sigue insistiendo en la imposición de aranceles, y dice Donald Trump que los aranceles, lo ha dicho él, lo han dicho sus asesores, van a servir para que Estados Unidos lidere la economía, porque van a servir para recaudar impuestos. Te quiero preguntar, ¿qué opinas de esa afirmación y del resto de efectos colaterales de esos aranceles?
Bueno, ¿qué pensamos de todos? De Trump y su posición en el gobierno, porque la verdad es que todos los días yo cambio de opinión cada 3 horas. ¿Tiene un plan? ¿No tiene un plan? ¿Tiene la cabeza bien puesta como mandatario? ¿No tiene y es un cabeza loca? Porque es que, en definitiva, va dando unos tumbos que... Bueno, hoy tenemos el VIX en el punto más bajo, el índice de la volatilidad, en el punto más bajo de todo el mes de marzo, ya es bastante. Y vemos que efectivamente las bolsas americanas están subiendo y hay determinado comportamiento racional de los mercados. Pero es verdad que el señor Trump no crea más que volatilidad por sí mismo, porque en definitiva, bueno, vamos a ver lo de los aranceles. El día 2 de abril aparentemente es el día D, hora H, en la cual se van a definir todos los aranceles y se van a poner en marcha. Yo creo que los aranceles es ponerle puertas al campo y se utiliza como un arma de negociación. No está buscando nada en concreto con ello, porque en definitiva va a ralentizar el consumo, va a ralentizar el negocio, que es lo que él en definitiva está buscando, ¿no? Entonces lo va a utilizar como un arma arrojadiza en contra de los enemigos y como su instrumento de arrinconar a la gente, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, mi opinión personal es que a lo largo del año él va a reconducir los mercados y van a reconducir sus cosas para acabar el año de una forma más o menos presentable. Pero es verdad que desde que llegó, lo único que está ocurriendo son bandazos y, desde luego, gran volatilidad, insisto. Entonces, veremos los aranceles. Los aranceles son inflacionarios y son un instrumento antiguo, porque, en definitiva, estábamos en un mundo de la aldea global y la aldea global supone que todo tenía que fluir de un sitio para otro. Es verdad que los chinos, en definitiva, se han podido aprovechar en algunas ocasiones de ello, pero, desde luego, a Europa, en la relación, el binomio USA-Europa es absurdo. Tenemos mucho negocio que va hacia allá, mucho negocio que viene hacia allá, de allá, y por tanto para Europa, que somos el mejor mercado, somos el mercado más grande y con más capacidad de gasto del mundo, y por tanto es la única medalla que nos tenemos que poner los europeos, es que somos un gran mercado y que por tanto nos tienen que respetar en ese sentido. Pero en otros aspectos no somos tan buen mercado, no somos tan buen como negocio, etcétera. Pero como gasto, desde luego, somos los mejores. Por tanto, veremos cómo sale el día 2, veremos a ver cómo lo sigue utilizando el señor Trump y a ver lo que hace con los aranceles.
Te quiero preguntar, decías que los aranceles son inflacionarios. Hoy precisamente ha anunciado el presidente de Estados Unidos una imposición arancelaria, Javier, del 25% al petróleo procedente de Venezuela. El propio Trump compra petróleo a Venezuela, también se lo compra a Canadá, a quien impone aranceles. Punto número 1, ¿a quién se lo va a comprar a partir de ahora y qué puede suponer para los productos energéticos norteamericanos esa imposición arancelaria a países con los que hay una relación comercial que afecta a Estados Unidos?
Bueno, a mí me encanta que le ponga por fin algo contra Venezuela, ¿no? Porque Venezuela al final es el enemigo público número 1 y por tanto estaba gozando demasiado tiempo desde que llegó Trump de estar aislado y que nadie se metiera con ellos. A mí me parece muy bien que le pongan un arancel incluso mucho más alto para poder arrinconar al Estado bolivariano. ¿A quién le va a comprar? Pues ese es el asunto. El asunto está en que esas conversaciones con Rusia son absolutamente preocupantes. La reunión trilateral que hay, que está teniendo lugar hoy, desde luego, si el señor Trump con Zelensky le dijo que no tenía cartas y que estaba jugando mal las cartas y que tenía muy pocas cartas, yo creo que el otro día en la conversación Trump con Putin, Trump enseñó todas las cartas y Putin no enseñó ni una de las cartas. Entonces, y además fue muy larga y se habló de demasiadas cosas. Desde luego, no nos lo contaron, pero está muy claro que están montando algo bastante sospechoso. Y por tanto pues si no le compra el petróleo, no se lo compra a Venezuela, pues hay otros países tipo Rusia, ¿no? Porque yo creo que Putin lo que va a hacer va a aprovecharse de la digamos, exuberancia del señor Trump para sus propios intereses. Y es muy peligroso. Putin es muy peligroso. Desde luego, yo creo que no va a salir nada bueno para la guerra Ucrania-Rusia de estas conversaciones. Y en todo caso, lo único que se va a aprovechar es Putin de esta, digamos, exuberancia de Trump, que insisto que está enseñando todas sus cartas y lo está haciendo de una manera un poquito excesiva. Entonces, bien, a mí, desde luego, el petróleo efectivamente se tendría que haber mejorado o cambiado el precio del barril o el precio del petróleo, y no se ha visto afectado. Prácticamente está en 69 el West Texas cuando venía de 68, ¿no? Está ahí mismo, no ha afectado mucho.
De petróleo, efectivamente, subidas, pero bastante suaves, bastante moderadas. Te quiero preguntar también por esa fiesta que estamos viendo en Wall Street, porque tenemos a los operadores interpretando que las negociaciones arancelarias van a permitir, bueno, pues más concreción sobre productos y que no van a ser aranceles generales sobre países. Te quiero preguntar a qué se debe ese optimismo hoy en... Javier, te tengo que parar un segundo porque estábamos esperando la intervención, la comparecencia de Donald Trump con el CEO de Hyundai y parece que se va a producir, según están viendo en esa señal que nos llega desde la Casa Blanca, se va a producir en este momento. Es una rueda de prensa tripartita en la que van a participar el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, el gobernador de Luisiana y el CEO de Hyundai, Donald Trump.
Money is pouring in. And we want to keep it that way. And I think that's what's going to happen. We have tremendous interest in our country, more than ever before. There's never been anything like it. We're almost at a $4 trillion level. And that's something that's never happened. And I think hopefully it's because of the election on November 5th, but it's also because of tariffs, I suspect, Governor. But I'm thrilled to welcome Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, a friend of mine for a long time, and to have you at the White House. And we thought this was going to happen. And I said, if you get it signed up, we'll do it at the White House. And you got it all done. I'm proud of you. Not surprised. Executive Chairman of Hyundai Motor Group, Jung E-sun. Thank you very much. What a great honor. Vice Chairman Jay Chang. Jay, thank you. Hyundai Steel President Soo Gang-hyun. Thank you very much, President. That's big stuff. And former Ambassador Sung Kim. Thank you very much. Great honor to have all of you. Also, and these names are much less difficult for me, but I think we got them right. But this one we will definitely get right. Mike Johnson, our great speaker, and he's been doing a real job. Right, Mike? It's an easy job, isn't it? House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve, doing all right, Steve. I'll tell you, he went through a lot, and he's stronger than ever. Louisiana Speaker Philip Duvalier. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Senate President Cameron Henry, State Representative Ken Brass, State Senator Eddie Lambert, and Ascension Parish President Clint Coint-Ment. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Great honor. Great to have you with us. Today, we're delighted to report that Hyundai is announcing a major $5.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a brand new steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers. And then there'll be major expansion after that. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year. The cars are coming into this country at levels never seen before. Get ready. This investment is a clear demonstration that tariffs very strongly work, and I hope other things also, but the tariffs are bringing them in at levels that have not been witnessed. Hyundai will be producing steel in America and making its cars in America, and as a result, they'll not have to pay any tariffs. You know, there are no tariffs if you make your product in America, so it's something that's why so many people are coming. As you know, we have from Taiwan, the biggest chip manufacturer in the world, is coming in with $200 billion, and we have a lot of people coming and plants coming and companies coming that never would have been here, never would have even thought about it. The new steel plant in Louisiana is part of an even larger $21 billion investment Hyundai will be making in the United States over the next couple of years. The company will also be massively increasing its auto manufacturing in Georgia and investing billions of dollars in advanced American technology companies. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask the executive chairman to say a few words, and it's a great honor to have Hyundai, a truly great company. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here today, and thank you for the invitation. And congratulations on the remarkable start to your new term.
It's been good.
All right. So Hyundai Motor entered the U.S. 1986. Since then, we have invested over $20 billion and now support more than 570,000 American jobs across all 50 states. Today, I'm pleased to announce an additional $21 billion in a new investment over the next 4 years, our largest U.S. invest ever. A key part of this commitment is our $6 billion investment to strengthen the U.S. supply chain from steel and parts to automobiles. We are especially excited about Hyundai Steel's multi-billion investment in a new facility in Louisiana, which will create 1,300 American jobs and serve as the foundation for a more self-reliant and secure automotive supply chain in the U.S. To mark this milestone, we are honored to visit President Trump alongside Governor Landry and Speaker Johnson and Leader Scalise, deepening our partnership with the United States and reinforcing our shared vision for American industrial leadership. And this week, we are also proud to open our new $8 billion auto plant in Georgia. With this, our U.S. vehicle production will exceed 1 million units per year, as President mentioned. Our decision to invest in Savannah, Georgia, creating more than 8,500 American jobs, was initiated during my meeting with President Trump in Seoul in 2019.
That's right.
Yeah, and after that, 2020 in Davos, I mentioned about the new plant. So American jobs was initiated during at the time. Now, as we proudly mark the completion of this transformative project coincides with the beginning of President Trump's second term, making this moment even more special.
Thank you.
Yeah. Furthermore, HMG will purchase $3 billion worth of US LNG to support America's energy industry and enhance our energy security. All of these efforts will accelerate the localization of our supply chain in the US, expand our operations, and grow our American workforce. With your leadership, Mr. President, Hyundai Motor Group is proud to be a stronger partner in America's industrial future. I'd like to personally invite you to visit one of our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility and see firsthand our commitment to the United States and our American workers. So thank you to our American partners and employees and communities. We are really proud to stand with you and proud to build the future together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I thought maybe we have our great speaker and we have two very good friends, Mike and Steve, and you come from a certain state that we're talking about right now that we love. And I've done very well there. I've always won by a lot. I love that state, so I was happy to hear about it. That's why I said, come on over. But Mike, would you and Steve like to say a few words, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. We're excited. It was mentioned earlier, what a great start we've had to your second term, and we're just getting started. Everyone should know that. There'll be more of this because it's the policies that are bringing about the great growth, and it's about leadership. And we have a strong new leader back in the White House, and it makes a big difference because everybody around the world is seeing that, and everyone around the country is applauding it. We were on district work period last week, and Steve Scalise and I and our colleagues were traveling around the country doing campaign events, raising money, doing all the things that are necessary to ensure that we keep the House majority for the Republican Party. And I'll just tell you, I was in multiple states over the last week, and everywhere I went, Mr. President, people are excited. There's this great sense of relief, almost euphoria out there because they know that America's back. This is the America First agenda. We're so grateful for these great friends with Hyundai to invest in Louisiana. We have extraordinary leadership on the state level, and leadership makes a big difference. We're so grateful to be a part of this. We want to tell you all this is a great investment in Louisiana and in America. More to come. Thank you so much. Steve?
Well, thank you again, Mr. President, for opening up the White House to this great group. Governor Landry has brought the same kind of energy to the governor's mansion in Louisiana that President Trump has brought to the nation in the White House. Some people marvel at President Trump's stamina. Over the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, we spoke by phone on some different legislative initiatives that we're working on with Speaker Johnson to continue moving the agenda forward. Those very things that President Trump ran on, he's delivering for the American people. And this announcement by Hyundai is one more example of how that agenda that President Trump ran on to make America first again is working for the American people. When you talk about 1,300 plus really good jobs in Louisiana, those are all American workers. That's billions of investment coming in from Hyundai into the United States that would not have been here without President Trump's leadership. And I think people know that, they see it. It's been a long time coming, but we applaud the work that Hyundai is doing with Governor Landry to come to our state. But for President Trump, we're seeing this all across the nation, and we're just getting started. A lot more to come, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions, please? Yeah, please.
The size of the investment, partly because of tariffs. On April 2nd, the reciprocal tariffs will go into effect. Is it truly reciprocal? Are there some countries that might get a break or some sectors that might get a break?
Well, I may give a lot of countries breaks, but it's reciprocal, but we might be even nicer than that. We've been very nice to a lot of countries for a long time, but I call it Liberation Day. April 2nd is Liberation Day. But today, as you know, we did something with respect to Venezuela. You heard about that, and that will be quite important. We'll be announcing some additional tariffs over the next few days, having to do with automobiles, cars, and having also to do a little bit with lumber down the road, lumber and chips. We're going to get all those chip companies coming back. They're already coming back without even doing it. So it's been very good, but we'll be announcing some others. But for the most part, April 2nd will be a big day. That'll be reciprocal day. And we'll be bringing some of the money back that's been taken from us. Let's be nice by using the word taken. I don't want to use a stronger word because these guys are professional politicians and they don't like to hear those words. I refuse to use the word stolen from us, but that's a...
Countries mutually bring down tariffs. Are you seeing that negotiation?
Oh, it happened. Well, the European Union lowered their tariffs to 2.5%. We were only at 2.5% for cars, which is very low. And as you probably heard, that European Union lowered their number from much higher than that, many, many times higher. Surprised to 2.5%. So that was good. But I don't know that I expect that. It's up to them. But we have reciprocal tariffs.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis, you mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
This announcement on Hyundai, is this a blueprint for you for other automakers to come to the United States to do what Hyundai was doing and investing so much in Louisiana and creating these new jobs?
Absolutely. That's a nice question from you. That's a shocking question, how nice it is, huh? That's okay. That's a question that's a good question, actually. Yeah, sure. Hyundai's a great company. We have other great companies coming in, and we have some that are going to be staying here and very much expanding. And we have tremendous interest in every business. I can't just say automobiles, but automobiles is a big one. And yeah, this is the beginning of a lot of things happening. We've had, as you know, Apple's announced a $500 billion investment, and other companies have announced 250, 300 billion. But we're well into the $3 and $4 trillion mark, which has never happened to our country before. What it really means is jobs. All we care about is jobs, right? We care about quality and quality of life and safety and security, but we care about jobs. And they're going to have we have a lot of people coming in.
Governor Landry, I would love to ask Governor Landry a question, if you don't mind. How did you convince Hyundai to come to your great state? How did you convince them to come to Louisiana?
It was easy. I told them we were going to have a great president this year, right? Look, I think that this is Americans seeing the America First policy in action, right? It's not just promises, it's about action. And not only and I appreciate their patience, because all last year, many of these legislators, the Speaker and the Senate President, we worked on making Louisiana as friendly for business as the president is making America. We worked on public safety. We worked on education reform, which the president's been working on. We worked on tax reform, historic tax reform. And what I can tell you is, to echo what the president said, in Louisiana right now, I believe before the summer's over, we'll have $50 billion worth of construction projects going on in Louisiana. That is a record, Mr. President. It has never happened under any other president, under any other administration. And I can only look at the leadership that he has brought, not only to the White House, but to the world as well. And so to have these executives come here and say, hey, we want to invest in America, because for decades now, what Americans have seen is jobs being offshored rather than onshored. And today's announcement is exactly that. This is a message for all America that this president and their governors out there care about the American worker.
And I have to tell you that if you have any trouble getting permits, which you won't, come see me. I'll get them for you immediately. All right? But you're not going to have any trouble. You know, we had, when I first got involved in this world of politics, when I went down to Louisiana, you know, the two big LNG plants, and they were stuck for 14 years. They tried to get permits, and these were $12 billion and I think $15 billion plants. And they were working on it for 14 years in one case, I think 13 or 14 in the other. And I was able to get them in less than a week. And they were shocked. And probably some consultant got a lot of money for doing it, but nobody spoke to me about it other than this gentleman at the time. He mentioned it, and he did. They were in very much different positions, but they wanted to see if we could break the logjam. And I got it done. In one case, I actually got it done in one day. And the other case, I didn't do as well. It took a full week. and they built, and they're up, and they're very successful now. That was a long time ago, but we got it done immediately. You'll have no trouble getting your permits, I guarantee. These people you're dealing with are top of the line. Okay, but just in case, call me.
On the Venezuela tariffs that you announced earlier today, sir,
Yes.
it says 25% for any country that does business
That's right.
with Venezuela.
If they buy their oil from Venezuela, they have to pay a 25% tariff to do business with the United States.
Is that on top of existing tariffs? So, for example, China. buys
Yes,
a lot of
that
oil.
would be a top of it for existing.
45%
That would
tariffs
mean,
on China
yep,
next week.
that's on top of existing tariffs, yes.
And so also next week, on April 2nd, as you said, Liberation Day. Is that going to be sector tariffs as well as reciprocal tariffs?
It's going to be everything. Yeah, it's going to be everything, but not all tariffs are included that day. For instance, we'll do some, as you know, we have already done steel and aluminum, and that's at a 25% level. And we are going to be doing automobiles, which you've known about for a long time. We'll be announcing that fairly soon, over the next few days probably. And then April 2nd comes, that'll be reciprocal tariffs. But we may take less than what they're charging because they've charged us so much. I don't think they could take it. In other words, they've charged us so much that I'm embarrassed to charge them what they've charged us, but it'll be substantial. And you'll be hearing about that on April 2nd. And it will be Liberation Day because we'll be taking in large amounts of money for our country. And that's lower taxes and all of the things that are good, and jobs, a lot of jobs.
And what's your message to the big corporate clients of the big law firms that you've targeted with your executive orders? Do you want those big corporate clients to find new lawyers?
I just think that the law firms have to behave themselves. And we've proven that. We have others that want to make a settlement also. They, having to do with the election and other things, they behave very badly, very wrongly. And I appreciate the one, these are the biggest firms. And they all came back realizing that they did wrong. And that's why they're doing this. So I just think they have to behave. We have to straighten out our country. We have to straighten out our elections. Our elections are very dishonest, very corrupt, and we have to straighten it out. And it's so easy to do it. And we should go to paper ballots. We should go to one-day voting. We should go to voter ID. And just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the United States. Wouldn't that be nice? How simple does that sound? Proof of citizenship, voter ID, one-day voting, and paper ballots. Paper ballots are very secure. They have watermark paper. It's very intricate stuff. It's very technologically advanced, even though it's paper. And you'd have no trouble. You wouldn't have dishonest elections, and you'd have them all done by 10 o'clock in the evening. France went to that. And not that I want to copy anybody, but many others have also. And they had 38 million votes, and it was all done at 10 o'clock. They had a winner, they had a loser. That was it. Nobody was complaining. And they had it backed up with paper. And it's so easy to do. The other thing, you'd save about, this would cost you about 8% of what the machines cost. So the paper would be much less expensive. So if you're looking to save some money, that's a good way to save it. So it's a shame that we've gone through it. We've gone through a bad election, really bad election. The election was so bad. And think of it. You wouldn't have had the October 7th disaster with Israel. You wouldn't have had Russia and Ukraine, because that would have never happened. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had the type of withdrawal from Afghanistan that you witnessed, which was probably one of the primary reasons that Russia went into Ukraine. They saw that mess, how badly it was handled. They said, wow, this is a paper tiger. That was handled by incompetent people. But that wouldn't have, we would have been out, but we would have kept Bagram, the big air base, which is 1 hour away from China, where they make their nuclear weapons. Would have been nice to have it, but now, you know who has it now? China has it. And so an honest election, and we wouldn't have had inflation. You had the record-setting inflation. We wouldn't have had inflation. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to congratulate Hyundai, a great company, and we will do everything possible. And I will say you picked a fantastic state. You really with tremendous people and tremendous leaders. And Speaker, I want to thank you for doing a great job. You and Steve, thank you very much.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it, Steve. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Pues de esta forma es como culmina la rueda de prensa ofrecida por el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, junto con el CEO de Hyundai y también acompañado del gobernador del estado de Luisiana. Ya saben cuál es el anuncio: mega inversión de Hyundai para construir una planta siderúrgica en Luisiana. El fabricante surcoreano de automóviles desvela una inversión de varios miles de millones de dólares que incluirá la construcción, como decimos, de una planta siderúrgica en el sureño estado de Luisiana. Se felicitaba a Donald Trump porque decía que la llegada de Hyundai a Luisiana podría provocar que otras compañías, otras fábricas, otros fabricantes de la industria de automoción también quisieran irse a Estados Unidos. Dice que Estados Unidos con esos aranceles liderará la economía. Y, por cierto, un apunte importante, ahora hablaremos de ello con nuestra siguiente invitada. Ha dicho Donald Trump que el día 2 de abril no entran en vigor todos los aranceles, por lo tanto ahí es donde se ve esa celebración del mercado, porque habrá concreción. Vamos con una última hora que tiene que ver con esas negociaciones de paz entre Rusia y Ucrania en Riad, y vamos con nuestra siguiente invitada. Lo que les contamos es que las negociaciones entre las delegaciones de Rusia y de Estados Unidos en Riad finalizan después de que las partes hayan acordado un texto a través de una declaración conjunta. Es decir, Rusia y Estados Unidos, después de pasar todo el día negociando, habrían alcanzado ya una serie de puntos en común que se publicarán a través de un comunicado conjunto que están pendientes de publicar. Donald Trump había dicho hace unos minutos, y lo hemos contado, que en las conversaciones de Riad se están discutiendo cuestiones territoriales y posibles líneas de demarcación en Ucrania. También ha señalado que las partes están discutiendo el posible control estadounidense sobre las plantas de energía nuclear en Ucrania, algo que ya les hemos contado. Así que eso, las negociaciones entre Rusia y Estados Unidos finalizan y las delegaciones de ambos países están preparando en estos momentos una declaración conjunta que cuando tengamos se la ofreceremos. Pues vamos a continuar con nuestro programa, vamos a continuar con el cierre de Wall Street en Negocios Televisión y vamos ya con nuestra siguiente invitada. Nos acompaña Sandra Estebayova, directora de asesoramiento y gestión de inversiones en Morabank. Sandra, gracias por acompañarnos.